Well, hello, everybody. Thanks again for joining us on the Delve podcast. Today, I am joined by Shane Krause from Strados. We met probably about a year or so ago. I've been quite impressed with their device, and Strados is one of our partners when it comes to respiratory health and devices. Shane, thank you so much for coming on. Welcome. I'll give you kind of a minute to kind of introduce yourself, what you really do at Stratos, and maybe give us a little bit more about, the history of Stratos, why you guys started, and where the belief is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate you having me on. So Shane Krause, I lead all clinical trials globally from a business development and strategy standpoint. So I've been with the company, I think it's the 17th of the month. It's coming up on like 3 years here within the next couple of days. So I've been with Stratos for a couple of years now as we progressed throughout the clinical trial market. And so my background is sadly, about 19 years in healthcare, combination of technology, implantable devices, EHRs, and now wearable tech. So a little bit of variety of healthcare background for me, and it's kind of moved me into why I wanted to come onto Stratos. Respiratory is really a missing diagnostic approach to care. I mean, you have from a cardiac standpoint, cardiac's been doing diagnostic monitoring for a while. They have Holter, which has been around forever. Zio, a little bit newer, and then obviously the very newer acceptance into continuous glucose monitoring. But pulmonary tends to be this area that hasn't really got the love it deserves, being that everyone's lungs are different. It's not a cardiac signal, it's not a heart signal. A lot of your pulmonologists, respiratory therapists, and nurses and physicians in general, the art of identifying lung sounds as they listen to the stethoscope is exactly what I just said. It's an art. So being able to bring a device to the market and into the industry that allows for a more objective approach and allowing for clinicians to listen and have everyone hear the same exact lung sound. And so I'll kind of dive a little bit into the company itself, but I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what kind of really interests me in Stratos Labs.
No, that's really quite impressive. What about, when you look at the Stratos solution, how does it differentiate in the market with other wearables and devices? I mean, there's a lot of noise around respiratory now. And there's a few devices on the market, but also some people will come and claims like, hey, I've got a wrist device that can do everything under the hood. But yeah, tell us a little bit more.
So the unique thing from Stratos' perspective, at the end of the day, we are a wearable digital stethoscope, which there is currently no FDA cleared wearable device that can claim that. And when you and I go to the doctor, one of the main things that a clinician does is use their stethoscope to listen to our chest. That's it. That's how they determine what the lungs sound like. There, like you mentioned, there are a ton of wearables out there that has the potential to do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, every clinician in the world is using a stethoscope to listen to the patient's lungs. So us as a wearable stethoscope gives them kind of that really wearable for continuous remote monitoring, allowing really clinicians and researchers to see changes in cough and wheezing events that can signal an exacerbation while a patient is home. So the lung sound recordings are transferred from our wearable device via Bluetooth to our cloud, and then it's able to detect with our machine learning algorithms cough, wheeze, bronchi, rales, crackles, all of these lung sounds that a clinician would normally hear, and then track and trend those results over time. And so that is what really is a I'm going to call it massive differentiator within the market is our ability to objectively bring lung sounds to the clinicians from the patient's home.
And what type of clearance do you guys have, like FDA, CE mark, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so we have two FDA clearances, which was really, so our first initial FDA clearance was within the hospital setting, actually, and it was for patient could place the device, but if clinician had to remove the device. And we did a lot of, as a new novel device, the FDA looked at us and said that, we would prefer if the hospital-based use of your technology you should do first. Where we did a lot of our usability testing and patient experience and patient preference and understanding what how the patient's wear would be. And then about 18 months-ish to a little bit later, we got our second FDA clearance that allowed for patient placement and patient removal. And then shortly thereafter, we received our CE mark for Europe. So that allowed us to kind of expand our clearance from a regulatory standpoint. So our device went through multiple different levels of usability and testing within patients to make sure that our device is exactly what patients are looking for.
Pretty awesome. And I remember, so in our prior conversations and engagements, you've got your own cough algorithm as well. Is that accurate? So tell us a little bit more about, kind of from a cough perspective, how do you guys detect cough? I know that there's a couple of different devices out there that can do cough. One there's a wrist device, one that's something you can actually wear it on your chest that can detect it through AI. I remember Genentech kind of talked a little bit about it, but I'd love to learn more about how your cough algorithm works.
Yeah, so the unique thing about when we think about cough is everyone wants to speak about a algorithm, right? So and however, there's a little bit of differentiation between the algorithm use and what the FDA sees as a specific indication. So as an example, specifically focused on when we're talking about chronic cough as a primary endpoint, that's a specific indication where a primary endpoint required by the FDA is to reduce the 24-hour frequency using an objective cough monitor like Strados. However, the primary endpoint also requires from the FDA for 100% human annotation of the actual coughs themselves. So the FDA requires that humans review these lung sounds and annotate that a cough is a cough is a cough. Whereas when we talk about exploratory endpoints, then we can get into conversations around machine learning. The FDA hasn't got to the point to where they will acknowledge machine learning cough algorithms. So from a objective cough monitoring standpoint, you're going to mostly see the algorithm use within exploratory endpoints over primary endpoints, if that makes sense.
Yeah, spot on. Oh, thank you. And then, now let's dive kind of to the fun part, right? Patient engagement, compliance, blah, 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 right? So it's, patient engagement and patient compliance is probably one of the biggest issues that we hear about, right? Where compliance, how do we make sure patients are really kind of using the device, and how do you can give them a task, push out a reminder, and then engage with those patients. So how do you guys currently work through that? And then, a little bit more about kind of how the Dell partnership can help support that part of the business as well.
Yeah, so obviously patient compliance and retention in clinical trials is really a key component of conducting a successful study. I mean, there's really no way getting around that. And from a Stratos perspective, we provide multi-layered approach from a training perspective to patients, to sites, everything from translated specific guides to sites, translated specific guides to patients. And then on top of that, any sort of mobile application or web application is also translated into their native languages. So we can do all our part on the actual, this is how you use the device, this is the time periods when you're supposed to use them. However, for when we talk about Delve and Stratos specifically, I think Delve fills a site to patient communication gap for Stratos. The potential use for Delve's AI tool really understands the best way to engage with a patient, to kind of utilize the mobile apps, the SMS, the automated phone calls, kind of in order to nudge and notify a patient of upcoming rest recordings to stay within the study protocol time and event schedule. So it has a really nice potential to reduce that site burden of patient reminders, especially when we get into your DCT trials, when everything is virtual and they don't have as much, obviously, site interaction. The Delve system and the, I'm going to call them gentle nudges that they need to be compliant and stay engaged in the trial is ultimately very critical.
Yeah, awesome. In the normal setting of trials that you guys are part of, what are some common wearables or devices that are usually utilized along with your device?
I think that, it depends on the individual trial. But I would say that what we see in a lot of your respiratory trials, of course, they're going to have some sort of, because it's respiratory, there's going to be some sort of spirometry device involved, whether it is a site-specific utilization of spirometry, or it is a mobile spirometry where they're using that at home. And then we also have trials where they're using some sort of actigraphy system similar to like actigraph, where there and then you really stack on top of all of that the utilization of your ePros, because your ePros are really getting that self-reported, because like as an objective cough monitor, we're never going to replace how the patient feels. They're going to be the best judge of how they're feeling. But all of these different sensors, like the actigraphy, the spirometry, and then us, are really allowing to kind of help fill the gap of this objective ground truth and really anchor to those patient self-reports and self-reportings that kind of meaningful context to the numbers and metrics that like all of these sensors and all the metrics that we're providing as wearables. You're going to have that self-reporting and married with that objective data, which brings kind of the value together to kind of give a full, complete picture of what's happening for the patient during the trial.
Yeah, spot on. And this is actually exactly kind of why these types of partnerships work, right? Because we're partnered with Strados, we're partnered with Actigraph, we're partnered with a couple other organizations from the spirometer perspective. We have our ePros, ECOAs, and then patient engagement. So it really builds a nice, complete flow for the entire study, where everything just kind of happens under the same hood, where we're really reducing the silos and making it easier on sites, patients, and even the study team, right? Because you have really one area where you can go in and you can help monitor the patients, operationalize the devices, etc. So, but no, I mean, this is good. We're excited. We're excited to to work with your team. Thank you again, once again. One last question. I think I asked you about before, that holy Buckeye in your background. Tell us more about what that one.
So if you're a college football fan, then it may resonate with you, and especially if you're an Ohio State Buckeye, then it may resonate even more. It happened. It was a play call probably, what is it, was in 2024, like about 20, 30 years ago, Brett Musburger, the commentator. It was a specific play, as you can see, the play. And instead of him saying holy blank, he said holy Buckeye when the play happened and they got the touchdown and won the game. So just kind of a inside Ohio State thing that a lot of people ask about because they're like, what on earth is behind you? But on occasion, I'll get a Michigan fan who wants to, just give me a couple jabs, or Ohio State fan who actually knows what it means. So it's appreciate you asking.
Awesome. Shane, thank you again, man. It's always a pleasure, always amazing to
Always,
speak and
always.
see with you. And until next time, thank you.
Yep. Thank you. All right. We'll see you. Bye.